Hey there guys, today I'm doing a review of my Baofeng 888S radio. Jumping right into the review. It's a really cheap radio, $15 to $30. Usually in the US it's $15 and it's actually kind of hard to find it anywhere else. So I would just order it from the US if I were you. The next one I have is the removable antenna. Comes off really easy. It's just like a threaded one. I'll see if I can focus on that. And the connection, if you're ever wanting to buy a different one, is, I believe it's an SMA-F as in female, so you can see that that is a female connection. I have a couple other antennas that I use on my UV5R, and they're all compatible. So if I ever wanted to go more long range, then I could totally do that with one of those guys. The next one I have, while I'm twisting that back on, is the belt clip is actually really, really strong. I don't know why. From like, if you're kind of approaching it down, it's actually kind of hard to like, maybe I'm just weak. You can just feel bad for me. It's actually, but it's seriously, it's a really strong belt clip for like kind of a cheap radio. You're better off doing that or something else, I don't know. You can get a whole bunch of these batteries. I'm not terribly sure how much they are, but you can just get them off of Amazon. I'll throw a link on there. And you can just charge one in the charging base and then use another one to actually use the radio if you wanted to. And while I'm talking about the battery, it's kind of tricky to find the release. There it is. Comes off like that. There's your radio. So yeah, you can totally buy a whole bunch of those. And the battery itself is a lithium-ion battery pack. It's DC 3.7 volts and 1500 milliamp hours. Not terribly sure if I said that correct, but whatever. To actually put this in, what you need to do is lift the clip up, and then you'll follow like a track if I'm doing it correctly. And then after that, you kind of have to push it down, and then you can clip it in.
Power on.
Yes, I know. You're talking. Stop talking. So just in case you're like fidgeting with the battery at all, that's how that's done. The next thing is the audio quality is pretty good. I did a couple of tests between it. Oh crap! Don't do that with your radios. I did a couple of tests between these radios together, and they sounded really good communicating with each other. So I was really pleased to know that you can understand people quite easily. Comes with a flashlight. Not a great flashlight, but a flashlight nonetheless. This is actually a kind of really just small flashlight. I don't know if you can see on my desk here where I have my notes. But like, it's just really for reading a piece of paper in the dark or providing some illumination, but like it definitely is only for like putting it right up to the piece of paper. This one's actually a bit better about that, but I'll talk about that in a different review. Those are all my pros. The first con I have is the flashlight, because it's just not very bright. You kind of have to hold it really, really close, but I guess I just finished talking about that, so I'll stop talking about that. A con I have is the letters are kind of hard to see. You can see them right there, but imagine if like you're on a film set or like you're playing airsoft and you want to see the letters. That may be a bit tricky to do, especially if this is in a pocket of some kind and you may need a flashlight, not this one, to see your letters. So it would be nice to have like kind of like a light up letter feature, or even for these little kind of knobs here to light up. Next con I have is that the controls might be small for a type of gloves. So if you're like, I don't know, farming or like doing anything that requires, I don't know why I said farming, that's a really weird example. Or even if you're like in the emergency services. Why are you using this radio? Don't use this radio. I can't think of an example right now, but if you're using gloves, kind of bulky gloves, or even just smaller gloves, it may be just weird to like really know which one you're pushing, or I don't know. Next one is that I cannot think. Oh, it's not very durable. I imagine if you drop this, I've only had it for a couple of weeks, so I haven't really gotten a whole lot of chances to screw up. But like, I imagine if you drop this on concrete, it probably wouldn't do much for you. It is a cheap radio, so we'll talk about where it's applicable later and where you can kind of use it. Last con I have is that the programming cable, you actually have to buy it separately. It doesn't come with one. I know most radios don't come with programming cables, but it would be nice to have one. It comes with some GMRS, because it is a GMRS radio. North America's GMRS frequencies are very, very similar. This has kind of a Chinese version of that. So in order to, if you wanted to use this with like other family household radios, you'd have to get a programming cable, plug it into your computer, and do that. Actually, one of the things I like most about this radio is that you can program it. What sets it aside from my primary radio is that this has a keypad, and sure, there are a whole lot of like memory channels. It's all kind of confusing, especially if I was to lend this out to anyone who is just stupid and doesn't know how to use it. Sorry to all my friends who I basically just insulted. Yeah, so you could, like, if you wanted to use this for any type of application, you can be like, alright, well, dispatch is on channel 1, and TAC 1 is on 2. Stop talking. Is on channel 2. 1. Alright, going off. Basically, is what I'm saying is you can just program it, set it, forget it. That rhymes, good for me. Which is really easy to do if, like, you're wanting to, like, in a quick situation, you're like, alright, well, I gotta switch to this one, or I gotta switch to this one. And it's not just like fooling around with a whole bunch of numbers that I barely know how to use. So those are my pros and my cons. Overall, it's a good kind of little radio for what it is. The price is really cheap and it works. So the details is the antenna itself, this part, is the UHF 400 to 480 megahertz, and it's 4 inches long. And so this radio is actually 400 to 470, so this can reach 10 more megahertz. So I guess if you wanted to use it for like a dual band or anything else that can receive those, you can reach 480. The radio is 4.5 inches tall, 2.5 inches wide, and I believe it is, I'm trying to read my notes, 2 inches with this belt clip thing, which is, by the way, removable by those 2 screws. We already covered the battery. Sorry. I heard a noise. Back to the review. So the overall specifications is, its kind of title is UHF FM transceiver. So unlike my UV5R, which can go VHF, UHF, and FM, this is just strictly UHF, which is alright. The main reason that they, I guess, would have FM is because this one you can play FM radio stations like in your car can. I think you can do that with this one. I haven't found a button for it unless they're hidden. But oh well. As I said, this one is a 400 to 470 megahertz. And the power is 5 watts. The voltage is 3.7 volts. And the connector is an SMA-F. So I think, oh yes. And the industries that I find that this might be applicable in is hospitality. So if you have like some sort of like motel or even a hotel, it would be really easy to like give this to someone and say, all right, you know, all like the managers are on channel 1, and just like it's really easy for employees to use, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And you can totally do that, and it would work pretty well within your hotel. I guess it would reach most of the ranges. Office and kind of business, I guess. If you run a business or an office, not like anything like industrial wise, you could totally use this between like employee communication if it's a big building, or if you're just really lazy, like me, you don't want to walk into the next room and just talk to someone. Hunting. You could totally use that for hunting. Actually, no. I wouldn't say it's very weather resistant, so hunting kind of is weather. Communicating with like other people's radios, so like camping or things, or you want to like, I don't know, just in general, like a family radio, this is kind of like a beefed up version of that, and you could do a bit more things with it. Or farming, or I guess really anything. But what I'm trying to say is that any of the emergency services, police, fire, EMS, military, all those things, those are kind of, you do day-to-day work with those, and I feel like this would just break or just not perform as well as you need it to by Motorola. But they're expensive, so that's why I have this. So I guess that is kind of my crappy review of the 888S for my Baofeng radio. Sorry it was such a bad one. This is my first review. If you have any questions, you can totally email me. And then, oh yes, I totally forgot. That's how bad I am. The side, it is a Kenwood adaptation in case you're going to want to buy a shoulder mic. And it has the 3.5 for the microphone and a 2.5 for the actual speaker itself. And then you have a shoulder mic and you can just leave that. So to conclude, that was my really bad review of the Baofeng 888S. If you guys have any questions, I just repeated myself. Anyways, happy holidays. Goodbye.